And we are live. Hey, Kim, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I'm starting to do our introduction for our podcast a little bit more like Joe Rogan does when he just starts talking instead of introducing his podcast. But hello, everyone. This is CJ or Carlos, and we are here with the Speaking Bluntly podcast. And I'm here with co-host Kim McCarthy. As you know, our podcast is featured and sponsored by the Cannabis Sessions, as well as Harvest and Plume magazines that Kim is the editor-in-chief for. And Kim, I know you had a very exciting weekend that you probably want to touch base on, because obviously we talked about it the previous two podcasts. So I think we should, maybe if you want to recap it for our audience, please.
Sure. It was called the Metamorphosis Retreat. And it's really cool because the situation that's going on right now with all the economic empowerment groups, and this one was specific to Massachusetts, so I can only talk to those issues. But they found that having that certificate of economic empowerment was not helping as much as they wanted. And so there are a lot of issues that are going on. And anyway, the Metamorphosis Retreat came along and said, you know what? We know how to help, and it's completely compliant. It's completely legal. We're going to create a safe and vetted source and environment to bring investors and entrepreneurs together so that we can start making these advancements in the industry. And anyway, so it happened, and it was beautiful. It was in Manchester by the sea. It was in this gorgeous mansion. I'm going to give you a little heads up. There's a secret door, and I love secret doors. And,
Nice.
I clicked on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, be still my heart.
Like
it was absolutely beautiful. And they had this, I think it was 80 feet long, a reflection pool, like the reflection pool in front of the Washington Monument. So
neat. That is so neat.
But it was perfect because it was extremely private, exclusive. The Doctors Knox, they're such an incredible group. Just a little recap on them. There's, this is going to sound really bad. I totally forgot the dad's name. I think it's David, Dr. David Knox. And then his wife, Dr. Janice Knox. And then they have they have more kids apparently, but we only know about the two. And that's Rachel and Janet. And anyway, they're called the Doctors Knox, and they can't trademark the name because ology is in there, so you can't trademark biology, psychology. Well, they are the founding members or partners, the founders of a brand new academia and practice, which is, and I always say it the wrong way, endocannabinology.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a lot to say.
Yeah.
Endocannabinology. That's wow. That's a mouthful.
I know. And it just flows out of their mouths so easily. So they're endocannabinologists.
I did interesting. That's very exciting.
So it is exciting because they're going to be taking this to actual doctors and teaching them, as opposed to a lot of recommending clinics may have some type of a training course for physicians, excuse me, who'll be doing recommendations. But this is actual academia. And it was such a pleasure talking to them. And the cool thing, they really want to work with economic empowerment groups.
Nice.
And yeah, so it just feeds back into the reason why I wanted to get involved with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, hats off. It sounds like it was a very successful event. I know that you put a lot of time and effort into it. And for the other coordinators, congratulations. And I get excited when I hear about events like that, primarily, because the aspect of bringing in a bigger audience into our industry. And if we can continue to work to expand this industry, bringing in the medical professionals, the accredited investors, the angel investors, all those things, because it's a big pond. And at this point, we don't have to get, selfish in terms of what the work that we're doing. And then also adding the trust factor, which is, I think is so important. And that's something that, Kim, I think you would agree that with all of our listeners, I think it's just, there's so much excitement about getting into this space, whether you're a farmer or you're CBD, you're thinking about doing a CBD store. So like any industry, there's good and bad actors or actresses in it. So I think it's very important for listeners, before you get in, just to ensure that that you work with either those organizations, those individuals, and take the time to find the right partners who you're working with. Don't be in such a hurry to sign on the line the very first time that you're meeting with someone.
Exactly. There are a lot of opportunities out there literally looking for you. Sometimes they don't know exactly where to look. So keep plugging away, keep building the network, and you'll definitely make the connection.
Yeah, and like any other good approach to it in terms of is that if something sounds too good to be true, then more than likely it probably is. And just I'll give you an example, and I'm not going to name this particular presentation that I went to, but I went there just out of curiosity and full disclosure, as well as Kim, I am in the industry, and so I went to this presentation just to observe and to listen. And I sat there and looked at the audience and the people that were there and the energy and the excitement that they had. And then overall, I listened to the presentation and I was like, gosh, they're probably going to walk out of there with maybe, 8 or 9, 12 people, writing checks and, particular participating. But I didn't think that was necessarily the right thing to do. To go in first time, boom, write us a check, boom, we'll do this. And so just, again, I think it's just, kind of common sense to, at least in anything, whether it's like getting a contractor or getting a bid for something, that you don't necessarily just want to go on the very first one. You're better off to at least seek out 2 and line them up and benchmark them and decide, your path forward in this space.
Exactly. You have to know what's best for your brand, your vision. And the same thing with the investors. Now, I do want to make a point clear that as an entrepreneur, whether you're economic empowerment or not, social equity or not, just being an entrepreneur. And if you get approached by investors to say, great, let's do a deal now, they want control. I think that was a big takeaway from this event, that the entrepreneurs are saying, this is mine. I own a minimum of 51% of this. And investors, it's all about investments and money and control. So know exactly what you're getting into, giving away, all of that.
Yeah, well, and you made a great point, and primarily because this space and this industry is still fairly young in terms of how it's growing and the dynamics of it, and it's very important who you take money from and who you maybe that particular investor is looking to get you to a certain stage and then want to do a merger or an acquisition or something of that nature. And if you're looking at this more from a long-term perspective, finding that right investor to work with is just so, that's a great point. Thank you for making that understanding their long-term strategy in terms of their investment, and does that work with what you envision for your company as an entrepreneur and owner.
Yeah, exactly.
But there were some exciting things I did want to touch base, just very high level. I'm going to go ahead and click the screen share on, and I want to do an entire window here. Well, isn't it funny how I do this every week and I often forget how to do it? So some exciting news, and this just came out. Kim, I'm not sure. I think we touched base on it before we went live, and this is pretty huge. So the company Square, which by far is probably a fairly large merchant processing company, so they do mobile payments. Everyone probably remembers the little square that you can plug into your phone, your smartphone device. And then they also do a lot of retail price points, retail merchant services as well, brick and mortar. But they have announced, Kim, that they are going to start working with CBD companies.
That is so exciting. How much this is going to expand opportunity. I know I always go back to opportunities, but it's going to expand so many opportunities and so many corners for this emerging industry. This is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and having yeah, it is, and having been kicked off of Square, I'm interested to see if maybe they would give us another view, another chance. But it looks like so most individuals know, or if you don't know, for a long period of time in terms of merchant processing, our industry was regarded as a high risk industry. So therefore, it was sometimes difficult to find merchant processing. The merchant processing is the ability to accept credit, debit cards, all those kind of good things. That was a very difficult thing to do. And I've seen that frustration from business owners where they're full panic mode, right? Because they open their store and they start to take their first debit or credit card swipe and it works. And then the next day they get that email or that notification that, but you're doing CBD and we're shutting you down, and that pretty much and it's a downward spiral from there, because then you can't pay your employees, you can't do other things. But we're not getting any money or anything to plug Square, obviously, but we just thought this was kind of cool to discuss it. So we'll put the link in the description. It looks like they're going to be pretty competitive in terms of their rates for CBD businesses. Because what I'm familiar with in terms of the high risk industry is typically it's a little bit higher rate, and then they typically want to hold on to your credits for a little bit longer, just because of potential refunds before that final deposit hits your bank account. So you can go to squareup.com and research and do more. But I just thought it would be fun to talk about that, because I think it's a win overall for our industry.
It is, and hopefully this is a big push for the others.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Well done. And then let's switch gears a little bit, because typically we had talked about, like, the events that are coming up and all those great things, and why it's such an exciting time just from a hemp grower perspective. So you don't have to get fixated on, regarding CBD. There's some real exciting emerging economies and industries directly tied to this, Kim. So I did bring up a couple of things that I think would make a good conversation for us, and one of the ones I brought up is hempwood, that I'm sure that you're probably familiar with, with hempwood and all that kind of good stuff. And I just think this could, this movement of green our environment and everything. How well placed is the hemp industry for that?
It's very well leveraged. People are just starting to understand that. Oh, it's a plant that can make things, not just, get you high. It does a heck of a lot more than just that one tiny thing. And from the home construction and home building perspective, it's huge. Now, this is actually, I'm looking at the pictures as you're scrolling by. This has a very soft place in my heart, because this is where my journey into hemp actually began. And I cut through a lot of stigma with family and friends, like, oh, hemp, haha, giggle. And I was like, you know what? This is actually about my son's breathing issue, because he has allergy-induced asthma. And I found out that hemp is the best filter. So then, of course, my head, the way it works, I thought, well, if that's the case, then hemp walls, hemp floor, hemp fiber, all these hemp things would no longer be contributing to, such as all the formaldehydes that are in carpet and foam,
Yeah,
in your
absolutely.
pillows and in sofas. And so there are a lot of what we don't realize are toxins, and we're so used to sucking them in and processing them. But when I found this out, how much you can actually build with hemp, that's when I thought, well, I want a home made of hemp. That's going to solve all the world's problems, is living in a hemp home.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah, and potentially, that in terms of the durability of hemp, in terms of the fire retardant of that hemp is. I mean, yeah, just think of some of those communities that struggle with type of housing where they could do, mini homes or things of that nature, and I'm sure that those companies will begin to emerge and using hemp as that viable resource. And it's easy, to do some research in terms of why hemp makes all the right reasons to help and to help counter the deforestation that's occurring globally, and just how quickly hemp can grow and replenish. So it's pretty cool. I know that I believe it's in Kentucky, there's a company that's coming online that is going to have a pretty big facility to process and do hemp wood there. I can't recall the exact name of it, but those things are starting to pop up in a lot of places throughout the country.
Exactly. It's for me, it's extremely exciting. I never thought I'd get excited about hemp or construction materials or anything like that, but it is exciting to know that there are options available for us, and they're cleaner. I'm contributing to a zero carbon footprint, to and all the things that it offers. No pests, no pesticides, no mold, no fungus. It creates geothermal mass. And I'm just talking about hempcrete.
Right,
It's
right.
absolutely
Yep.
amazing. Hempcrete has. Did you know hempcrete consists of three ingredients?
Yeah, it's pretty basic. It really is. I mean,
It's
I,
so basic. And all
yeah,
it does is the lime ends up petrifying the hemp herds in the water. It's hemp herds, water, and lime.
yeah.
And then
I actually
petrify
had that
over.
brought up. Brilliant minds think alike. I had that tabbed out as far as ready to discuss it with Hempcrete.
I see it now.
Yeah,
I think that is so fantastic.
it is, and at some point, just think of the money it could potentially save in terms of some of the roads, some of the manufacturing, and the construction that's taking place of moving towards to hemp to help with those things. And
Yep.
most people, like if for our audience, like most people, if you do like a search and look for universities or some of the industry associations that's out there, they will do pretty cool seminars that you can go to and learn about these things and learn about these emerging technologies and applications for hemp. Not only that, but the academia that you mentioned. There's several universities. I'm here in Indiana, and Purdue University has an actual hemp farm, and they do a lot of testing, a lot of research. They do field ag days to come out and different sessions. I attended my first one this year, and it was just amazing the workshops that they had. They had a financial workshop. They had a um, just the pesticides and some growing concerns, equipment. So there's tons of resources out there available right now, and it's exciting to see that to help aspiring entrepreneurs to get out there, or even if you're an industry that maybe things are changing, and we're seeing a lot of that now. Disruptive things that are coming on board that you have to pivot at some point to find something out, and hemp could be that potential solution to help with a lot of those applications and industries.
Exactly. And a friend of mine, he's in Denver. I'm in Boulder, and he's an industrial hemp professional, and I think he just came back from Jamaica, or maybe he's still there wrapping it up. But he goes to Jamaica and helps build hemp homes and teaches others how to work with hempcrete, and in showing them he's more of, I want to share the knowledge with you, as opposed to keeping it for investment and
Yeah, yeah.
purposes. And I love that as well. Uh, the only thing that I know that hempcrete can't survive in, not well at least, is if it's always wet. So
Hmm.
So I'm interested to talk to him about the Jamaican rainforest
See
and
how they
how,
handle that. Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be interesting. Very, yeah, that would be to see how they do that. So again, just for the space, the crop itself, I also know that they are actually doing some studies and leveraging and using hemp just as a rotation crop as well, because there's a lot of statistics as far as testing the soil and the nutrients that hemp actually places back into there. So if you think about the number of years that our American crops have been, leveraged for corn, soybeans, what have you, and how much our soil has probably been depleted in terms of that. The ability to use hemp as a rotation crop is potentially maybe a viable solution for farmers as well.
isn't that amazing? Hemp remediates the soil. It grows in barren environments. Um, I forget which island of Hawaii, nothing else grows because of the volcanic activity except for hemp. So, perfect hemp farming opportunities. This plant just, it, you don't have to rotate it out, but you can add it into the rotation to help with other crops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. Yeah, so tons of resources, and that's why your publication, Harvest and Plume, in regards to the hemp industry, is so important to subscribe, to make sure that you follow on your social handle platforms. And then also, I do follow your work, Kim, so I know you also have an event coming up close to my home state, Louisville, Kentucky, with Pipeline Strategy. So why don't you share a little bit for our listeners the event that you have coming up there?
Thank you very much. I happen to have a specialty in financial services. Although my licenses are no longer active, I do hold a CRD with, that makes sense to some people. I have a 626 and 63 and insurance licenses as well. So
Okay,
it's just
great.
an area specialty that now they want me to talk to the women in insurance and financial services about multi-generational recruiting.
Nice.
It's
Very
very
cool.
different in financial
Yeah, so
services.
it's a 2 or 3 day event, correct, down in Louisville?
Yeah, it's about 2.5 days. I'm only speaking for 1 hour of it. So
Okay.
that's
Well, that's okay. We'll have to find out more as we go along there. And then when's the next edition of? Did you release? Is there a October Harvest and Plume? Shame
there
on me for
is
not knowing that right now, but during the podcast.
no, it's shame on me. It's because of the event. It put me back a couple of days.
Oh,
So
okay,
I've
okay,
already talked to the advertisers and they're perfectly fine with it because
yeah.
it actually get a special mentioned in other publications.
Sweet. There you go. There you go. Well, Kim, it's been a great discussion today. And for our listeners, why don't you go ahead one more time and just plug how people can learn more about you, your work, and Harvest and Plume and the Canna Sessions.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, for Harvest and Plume, it's Harvest and A&D Plume for all of them: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, uh, YouTube. I've combined the channel for Harvest and Plume and the Cannabis Sessions because cannabis is in the name. The Facebook is at the Canna Sessions. And there's also a Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. Very cool. And yes, I did see that conversion. And just so you know, we eventually will cross post our podcast content on YouTube as well. So that playlist you can find on Rogue 420 YouTube channel as well, that has all the Harvest and Plume, the Canna Sessions, the Speaking Bluntly podcast. So make sure to bookmark that playlist. And then also go over to Rogue 420 and subscribe there as well, where we have lots of great industry articles and information that we leverage. And again, Kim, I want to thank you for a great discussion today. And we will be back next Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern.
Thursday.
Thank you.
Thursday.
Next Thursday.
I know, this week has flown by. I know.
I'm jumping ahead one day already.
Well, thanks so much for having me again. It's always a
Okay. Yep.
pleasure.
All right. Take care. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay.